Good morning. I'm Keith Tebow. FRC Media is taking time to look back at the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic in Fall River 1 year after it all began. On this segment, we want to take a look at how the pandemic impacted those who live in our city. We know that thousands of people fell ill, and as of this recording, well over 300 Fall River residents died from the virus. But as we know, the pandemic touched so many more people who were unable to make ends meet due to mandated business closures or reductions, or just dealing with the virus itself. Fall River had already experienced its share of struggle prior to the pandemic. When it hit, it made matters worse for so many. During the past year, the local nonprofit community rose to meet the challenges of helping the city's vulnerable, while also facing challenges on its own. Joining me to discuss this aspect of the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm pleased to be joined by Kim Smith, the Executive Director of the United Way of Greater Fall River, and Elizabeth Barabee, the Executive Director at Citizens for Citizens. Thank you both for joining me. How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Very well, thanks, Keith.
I want to start with looking back to a year ago, and it seems so fresh in many aspects, but in others, it's not. I want to ask both of you, and I'll start with you, Kim. When did you first hear about the pandemic and the virus? And did you think at that time that, it would impact the community the way it has?
Well, I seem to recall hearing about the pandemic as it was unfurling and growing overseas, of course, in January and then in February as it was spreading, and as it touched our shores in March, we really started to think, oh boy, here we go. And here we went. Yeah.
Let me ask you the same question, Liz.
Yes, absolutely. Like Kim, we were watching it all on the news unfold, other countries, and I have to say I was a little in denial, I think, saying, oh, maybe it won't come to America. And then lo and behold, it started, trickling in February, and then I actually think the first case was in Rhode Island. And then I think that's when it hit, our agency that, oh my gosh, this could actually be coming to Massachusetts. And again, I don't think we were totally prepared, to at that point to figure out what we were going to do if, it did hit Fall River, and what we would have to do to address the needs of the community.
And let me ask the both of you, Liz, let me start with you. I mean, was there any preparation at all? I mean, were you trained in terms of running a nonprofit agency that serves the community? Were you trained in this type of, emergency? And I'll start with you, Liz, on this one.
So there's no boot camp for CEOs, I don't think, to get you ready for this a pandemic. In all honesty, I actually started the position here as executive director on March 9th, which is very close to the period of time when the pandemic hit Massachusetts, when the governor closed Massachusetts. So it was all hands on deck. And I do remember thinking to myself, what have you done taking this position? But immediately I put together a team, like a COVID-19 team of some managers, and we sat down and we just kind of figured out how we were going to do this. And we were running services and programs as we usually do prior to this, and we know there was a great need, but never, I don't think we ever imagined the tripling effect that we saw in our food pantry, and we had to act quickly.
Yeah. Kim, let me ask you, was there any training that United Way provided to meet any disasters like this? I mean, I'm sure there are, because United Way steps up in this instance, but I guess, did you learn anything before you even started?
Well, certainly, as Liz mentioned, not on the global level, at the level of a pandemic. We certainly work with local partners like the Red Cross on disaster relief. That's one of our focus areas. And unfortunately, we had experience recently with the Four Winds fire just a little over a year prior, and working with the community partners in setting up the mark and really kind of collaborating with folks to provide support services for people in need. This was a whole other level. And I think that, as Liz said, we have no boot camp, we have no training really for the pandemic scale, but we immediately jumped into action and knew that we had to do something. United Way is boots on the ground. That's what we do. We work with agencies, and collaborating was first and foremost on our minds. We can't do this alone. We have no idea what we're facing, really. No one did. So we weren't alone. I don't think we felt vulnerable or ill-equipped. No one really knew what to expect, what to anticipate. And it was a day-by-day kind of thing. But what we did know was that we needed to work with our community partners and come together to collectively address what was going to happen and, eliminate duplication of effort, be as efficient as possible, and first and foremost, remain safe in everything that we did. So that was key. That was paramount for us.
Yeah, I want to get into that, if I could, in terms of each of you, how you each through your organizations handled dealing with the increased need. And Kim, let me just start with you in the United Way. As you said, the United Way has always been there for local disasters, things that happen locally. But with the pandemic, you had to have a different mindset. And as you mentioned, one of the things you talked about was creating these collaborations and get a little bit into more about how that happened here in Fall River. What were those likes? Who did you reach out to? And how quickly did people see the need to begin to work together to deal with what was ahead?
Sure. Thank you, Keith. As much as it was sort of a different perspective as looking at a global pandemic, we still really had to focus locally. So that actually didn't change. Really looking at our service area and how could we make the greatest impact in supporting folks through the unknown. One of the first phone calls was to my colleague at United Way of Greater New Bedford to see how they were reacting, what they were doing. And then the second call was actually to the South Coast Community Foundation and to see how we could work together and who was doing what. And we all were raising funds, much of it on our own, but also some collectively as well. And so there was an immediate spirit of increased communication and how are we going to bring these partners together? And so that was sort of on the regional level. And then locally, my colleague and friend at United Neighbors of Fall River, Wendy Garflip, she and I were on the same wavelength, and we both actually sent out individual emails to our network to say, hey, we're going to do a call and we're going to talk about what's happening and we're going to see who's doing what and what the needs are. And we quickly realized this is a duplication of effort. Let's come together. And so United Neighbors and United Way of Greater Fall River created United We Help Greater Fall River. And we convened a weekly call on Tuesday mornings. We called it Talk on Tuesday. And immediately we had close to 90 participants, nonprofit service agencies. We had local businesses. We had state and local municipal government officials, if you will. We also had funders on the call, and we just celebrated 52 weeks. And I say celebrated actually as a positive thing. We celebrated 52 weeks of this collaborative effort this Tuesday with still 49 participants on that call, which I think is huge. It's a strong testament to the collaborative spirit of the Greater Fall River area, to the necessity to share information, identify gaps, find solutions. We had so much creativity and still do. And it's really been an unbelievable resource for folks to really address the issues as they were changing so quickly, as they were evolving, and what was the highest need, what was emergency, what needed immediate response, what were the gaps, who was doing what, that kind of thing. And subsequently, we also developed some subcommittees to really dive into some more specific things. We have a food distribution and basic needs subcommittee. We have another subcommittee that focuses on health and wellness, mental health, behavioral health, supporting our parents who were now multitasking at home, among others. And these are continuing now. And we all actually continue to say we hope that once sort of COVID is under control, that this collaborative spirit will continue, because it's been really amazing for our community.
Yeah, I can just imagine what those first conversations were like, because everyone was all in this world of unknown and without any clear direction on what would happen. But I want to get into Kim, just a few more aspects. One of the things that we had talked about during the beginning was the fact that the United Way had some resources institutionally, and I want to talk about some of those. One is something that we're still hearing about. The 211 line, and I think you had approached me at a city press conference saying, "Hey, let's talk about 211 because that's a vital resource for residents, regardless of the pandemic or not." So, talk about how some of those United Way resources helped, and how you worked with the partners in the sharing of information.
Sure. That was one of the convenings that Mayor Coogan had called with some of the folks who are traditionally called upon to respond to emergencies. And meanwhile, we had already been convening our group of nonprofit partners and agencies and so forth to really address what was happening on the ground. And at that time, Governor Baker had declared that Mass 211 was the go-to resource for all information regarding COVID-19. And we felt it critically important to share that with our community, not only our nonprofit partners and service partners, but the people who would be needing the service. And we continued to promote that access to 211, whether going on the website mass211.org, simply calling via your cell phone or home phone, pressing 211, and getting a live person on the other end to help guide you through resources. Most important with that was making sure that our agencies, our local agencies, were putting in updated information, sometimes changing by the hour, never mind week to week or month to month. And so making sure that our local agencies, our partners that we were working with on a weekly basis, were going into their portal and updating all of the information so that when folks called from Fall River or the greater Fall River area, they were directed to the proper resources. And that continues. Mass 211 has been a resource that has been supported by United Ways actually across the country for many, many, many years. And so having it named as the go-to resource by the governor has been pretty amazing. In addition, most recently, 211 amped up its capabilities to provide the call center for folks to get appointments for their vaccinations. And that's still ongoing. And again, it was like an overnight thing. Oh goodness, people can't get appointments. Where do they go? What do they do? Seniors were having difficulty navigating, the computer and whatnot. And so once again, 211 stepped up to the plate and said, okay, we've got the capability. Let's do the call center, and here we go. So
yeah, another aspect of the work that United Way has done is, of course, raising money. Many of our nonprofits, and I know that Liz at Citizens for Citizens has been a beneficiary of United Way funding and continues to be. Early on, the United Way created the United We Help Greater Fall River COVID-19 Relief Fund. I believe now it's in the process of awarding its third set of grants. Talk about how that came about, Kim, and how important that has been for organizations like Liz and others.
Sure. So, well, as you mentioned, United Way, one of our primary roles is to be a fundraiser for nonprofit partners and other organizations in the greater Fall River area. And so we knew that this had to be a primary role here. We knew that there was going to be a need for resources. What that looked like, we weren't sure. And so we immediately launched the COVID-19 Relief Fund on Friday, March 13th. Before we left this building to work remotely, it was up and running on our website and already engaging donors to participate and give. And I have to say, it was an amazing response from our community. We have raised individually for our COVID-19 Relief Fund close to $400,000 above and beyond our regular campaign that supports lots of initiatives in the community. And then through support from the South Coast Community Foundation and the Governor's Wife's Fund and the Executive Office of Health and Human Resources. That number has grown to close to $740,000 above and beyond our annual campaign that we were able to infuse into the community. We gave 2 rounds almost immediately, emergency response, and then sort of as the summer approached, things that would support enrichment activities for our youth who we know were sort of kind of floundering. And right now we're in the process of our 3rd and final round to close out the COVID-19 Relief Fund to support those efforts that continue as we sort of feel like we're in the recovery stage. But that could be ongoing for gosh, who knows how long. So just, I can't say enough about the community and stepping up to the plate. Yeah.
And thank you for that support over the past year. I want to talk now to Liz, and Liz, we were sharing a story before we started that, we were, I was there talking to you outside Citizens for Citizens on Griffin Street just, about a year ago. And we were talking about how the food pantry was helping more people and that, people were picking up their groceries outdoors. And, I know that's still the case. Talk a little bit, Liz, about, what you viewed as the need prior to the pandemic and how it changed and how much, your organization needed to step up to help that many more people a year ago.
Sure. So as you mentioned, Fall River, has a high poverty rate, and our agency had been providing food pantry services for almost 2 decades. But as the pandemic just continued, we just saw it double, and then the amount of households we served tripled. So we were serving prior to the pandemic between 200 and 300 households a month. And by July, August, we were close to or a little above 800 households. And with that said, there was definitely a need for CFC to get resources. And we've been very lucky that we've got partners and friends like Kim from the United Way and John Vasconcelos from the South Coast Foundation. But I have to give kudos to Kim and Wendy for initiating those call on Tuesdays, the United We Help, because boy, it was very refreshing as an executive director that you're on the call with your colleagues and peers within your own city, and realizing that you're giving each other comfort and advice, that you didn't feel alone. As part of the community action agencies in Massachusetts, the governor, did earmark certain agencies that provide essential services needed to stay open. And we were providing food and health and safety and heat. So we had, 3 departments that stayed operational through the whole thing, but we had to revamp keeping our staff safe. But the biggest change was definitely the food pantry, where people, and up to this day, we still don't allow the general public into the building. So we went through the end of last winter because March is still cold and so was April. And I have to say, I felt really bad. It seemed like our food pantry days, which were on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays in the morning, there was always rain or snow on those days. And you can tell that people need food if they're standing in line in inclemental weather to get some food. But luckily, with the help from Wendy with the United Way, we got some resources, and we actually upped our ante, and we were providing food that would last 3 to 4 weeks. We partnered with some local markets, which they're telling us thank you so much, because if we didn't, they would have probably gone out of business. But we work with the Boston Food Bank and, our area markets, the Stop and Shops, the Shores, the Gold Medal, the Walmarts would send us food, and it was really, really necessary and needed. So as Kim said, the community really stepped it up, and I don't know how long it's going to take for us to get back to some kind of normalcy, but we are still seeing high numbers. And, all I can say is 1 year in, we certainly did it because we didn't step away. We didn't not provide services. I think we worked really well together in Fall River, and we should be proud of our community.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a story that we're hearing a lot of throughout throughout the country, not just in Fall River, obviously. Liz, let me also ask you in terms of the other services you provide. You just said we're coming off the end of again another winter. Did you see the need for fuel assistance also on the increase this past winter? And in general, I guess let me just ask you as well. How were people reluctant to seek out that help? Those who may not have ever needed it, all of a sudden were struck with this need. How was that communication with people who may have been reluctant to seek out these services?
Absolutely. With so many folks losing their jobs, people who have never used any services that Citizens for Citizens provides over the decades may not have even known about us. And unfortunately, even today, may not even know about the services we offer. If you've never had to use a service, especially those that don't work in Fall River, a lot of our, residents, work out of town. So we thought we would see more of a surge of clients coming in with the utilities. We did see some new clients, which we're very happy, and we want to service them. There is actually a moratorium. Thank goodness that no residential client or customer could be shut off of their natural gas or their electricity, and that was slated to end April 1st, and the DPU has just extended that to July 1st. So I think we didn't see the surge that we thought we were going to see because everyone's protected. But as the bills pile up, it can wear on a family or a single person, and we want folks to know that there's still time. Please apply now. We did get an extension as well, so our program usually ends April 30th, and we got an extension to May 28th. So we want folks to actually, I can't say come in because we are closed to the public, but we're doing we're doing the applications over the phone. And we just recently launched, for the first time ever, an online fuel assistance application. So folks can actually do it at their leisure, whatever time they want. They just go to our website and go to the energy page and fuel assistance. And somewhere in the middle there, it says new applicants apply online. And it's also available in different languages, so you can actually have everything translated for you. So I encourage folks to, before the May 28th deadline, please apply. You've got nothing to lose. And there's so many things that come with, if you're eligible for fuel assistance, there's a discount both on the gas and electric. You can get some weatherization done. So there are definitely some fringe benefits that are really worthwhile, and I would strongly encourage folks to go to our website to check it out.
Liz, let me ask you before we get to asking both of you about what the crystal ball may look like in the coming year. And I know this is probably the same for Kim. As leaders, you're there to provide a service, but you can't do it without the staff that you have. And I know that both of you have staffs that performed above and beyond. And I guess in terms of Citizens for Citizens, Liz, they're on the front lines of seeing these people in need. And I'm sure it may be stressful for your staff as well to see just the hurt out there. So talk a little bit about the importance of your staff at CFC.
I can't thank my staff enough for the dedication. The folks in the food pantry, you're right, we're providing the service, directly, people coming to the windows. Safety for my staff was very important. So, gearing up with all the personal protective equipment was paramount. The masks, the gloves, the sanitizers. Every time you touch something, you wipe it down. Something definitely we weren't used to. But we also had other departments really pitch in. One of our departments is the weatherization, where they actually go into houses and do energy audits. And obviously that department was not able to go into homes any longer. And instead of working from home and just doing paperwork and calls, they actually became part of the food pantry distribution center. And we could not have run it without our weatherization department. And then the energy department, we switched schedules so people would feel safe. We bought the plexiglass. Even though the clients weren't coming in, we had to protect each other from each other. So, we had to make sure that we did everything here to keep our employees safe. And, childcare, Head Start was doing remote work, but back in July, we actually provided care for the summer program. So essential workers, could go to work and actually have some place where their child could be taken care of during the day, or
Yeah.
some people just getting back to work, that they weren't, they didn't have to worry about childcare. So our staff back, I think it was like the Monday after the 4th of July, we're back to working with children one-on-one. And then Head Start opened up after Labor Day, and I started to bring staff back, I want to say like late summer,
Hmm.
the other departments, and everybody is, on one of the CFC compounds. So we are all working on site, and we are, again, like I said, we're not seeing customers in the buildings. Who would have thunk that we would still be doing food pantry through the window? And I remember in the fall, my CFO said, "Liz, what are we going to do if this pandemic continues for this winter as well?" And I'm like, I think we're going to have to do the same thing. But we did some different things. We bought some pop-up tents,
Yep.
try to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
But again, we couldn't have done anything without the partnership
Sure.
of our colleagues.
Yeah. We just have a few moments left. I do want to talk about, the future, and maybe, as I said, opening and bringing up our crystal balls. Kim, let me start with you. Um, you know, as we move ahead, are you expecting things to come back to normal? And we've been using air quotes a lot over the past year as well, right? So what are your thoughts in terms of, how maybe 2021 may look like, and what will it look like? And what have you learned moving forward in terms of the United Way and how to, deal with these issues moving forward?
Well, geez, if I actually had a crystal ball, maybe maybe things would look a lot different up to this point, and so that's really hard to anticipate. And we're already 3/4 of the, not 3/4, 3 months into 2021. I don't expect things are going to change drastically, and we just recently coined the term "a better normal." So I think that we can take what we've learned in this period of time over the past year or so, and create a better normal for our community, folks working better together, the opportunity for us to realize that we can quickly come up with a solution, that problems don't have to be so overwhelming, and that we can do it together without feeling so competitive with one another. We're resilient. We're really an amazing community that we should be proud of. I think that one of the things that certainly is still at the top of many folks' minds in terms of focus and is going to need support is really our youth, and how we will re-engage them and re-motivate them. And I guess the good thing is that everybody's sort of on that level playing field. We're all in the same boat. Or maybe not in the same boat. We're in the same storm. We have a few different boats. We're in the same storm here, and we've all been isolated. We have all been learning remotely. We've all been kind of, here's the word, pivoting to adjust to what's happening out there. And so, as we move into the summer and then the new school year, when things get back to that better normal, we are definitely looking to support our youth. And that's from 0 to 18 and beyond, even into college, and what those supports are going to look like for the generation that's significantly been impacted and is going to have to deal with the long-term effects of this pandemic and what it's done to our community.
Yeah. Liz, how about you? How do you see the work at CFC moving forward?
Well, I have to agree with Kim. I think we're not going to see a drastic change right away, but we do have a better normalcy headed our way now that the vaccine is available to us. Wish it was a little more available in the South Coast, but as people get vaccinated and get back to work and back in doing what we used to do, I think we'll be better. I think unfortunately it's going to take a long time for people to dig themselves out of the hole that they're in. People are behind in rent and mortgage payments and utility bills, and that's weighing on people. I think it's going to be a while where people it takes a while to get out of debt. You know, like if you don't pay 1 month's bill, how do you ever catch up without some type of assistance? So, you know, I think it is going to be a while. It's not going to happen overnight. I would be remiss if I didn't mention you know, the support we've received from our local legislators, Mayor Coogan and his staff, as well as our state representatives and our senators, Senator Rodericks and, you know, Representatives Viola, Sylvia, Schmid. Oh my God, you know, they were everywhere. You know, if we needed something, you could just pick up the phone and you call Carol, you call Alan, you call Paul, you call Mike. And, you know, I don't know if that happens everywhere else in the state. So again, we should be very proud because we have support of our legislators, which may be very different than other places, but that's why we live in Fall River.
Yeah, absolutely. And the old adage, it takes a village, that's definitely been the case here in Fall River and, you know, across the rest of the country as people continue to deal with the impacts of COVID-19. Elizabeth Barabee, Kim Smith, thank you for joining me. All the best moving forward, and thank you for all you do for the city of Fall River. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Keith. And thank you, Liz.
And
Thanks,
thank you
Kim.
for joining us today here on FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. Enjoy your day.